Welcome back to the Dungeon Master's Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game, the only person capable of playing God, killing characters, and lowering the egos of everyone else at the table. I'm one of your hosts, DM Neal, aka Jote Maniac, and today we are back to RAAH Real Monsters. I have no idea what number it is. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. And we actually have three amazing guests today because we invited on the Three Black Halflings of the podcast entitled Three Black Halflings. And we get into some absolutely terrifying conversations about the monsters that they wanted to bring to us. But before we do that, we have an iTunes review, and this one comes from Toaster Lover. Amazing name. And they entitled it Makes Me a Better DM. 5 stars. Most of my experience as DM, I didn't have a lot of information except for the books, and I have learned a lot from this podcast and laughed a lot. There is one question that I wish you could address. Buying weapons and armor or specialty items. Does the DM just make up a stall where there are specialty items and the PCs haggle and buy things? You know what? We have another mailbag of holding on the way, and so DM Toaster Lover, stay tuned because we'll answer that question there. But with that out of the way, let's head to the meat.
I'm starving. We ain't had nothing but maggoty bread for 3 stinking days.
Why can't we have some meats?
The plate meat's back on the menu, boys.
So today for the meat, we have the absolute pleasure of having the amazing people behind Three Black Halflings. And you know what? I'm just going to let you all introduce yourselves. Well, no, we'll preface. I'm a huge fan. I've already told you, I've listened to absolutely everything, and the stuff that I have missed, I'm going to go back and listen to it as well. So I'm beyond excited.
Neal, you're legit like the ultimate fan.
Oh yeah, I'm.
If you ever need a hype man,
yeah,
okay,
that's good to know. That's good to know.
Excellent.
I feel like I'm on a date. I'm like, do you say this to all your podcast guests?
Yeah, but Neal's.
I will say that I do tell them all. I mean, and this is just good podcasting etiquette. If you have a guest on, it's not hard. Google exists. Go find some other stuff. Engage with that content before you engage with them. Secondly, no, I just listen to everything that you guys put out, and I will do not do that for everyone.
We'll edit that part out, obviously, Neal, because we don't want people to know that.
Perfect. So yeah.
So you guys are introducing yourselves. That's what we got.
What's happening?
Yeah, take a minute to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, okay, we'll go in normal order. I'm Jasper William Cartwright, and yeah, 1/3 of Three Black Halflings, and I guess Unati, you go next.
Yeah, this is really weird. I'm Leon Unati Lewis now, but everybody calls me Unati, and I'm also 1/3 of Three Black Halflings. How about you, Jeremy?
My name is Jeremy Cobb, although a variety of different people call me a variety of different things. If you'd like to hear any of those things, go over to our show. In the meantime, Neal or Chris, do either one of you want to give me a nickname? I'll use it on the show.
I don't feel like I know you well enough.
Maybe
to give you a
not at the end. Yeah,
that's okay. It can even be a pun.
It's usually a pun on the word cob. Yeah,
it's usually a pun.
Neal, you're probably better at this, man. I'll put the pressure on Neal.
Okay, so it's
what
thank
a
you.
great.
Well, and he obviously he's pawning it off on the guy who has way more context than him. So then my thought is actually to combine it and say Jasper and Cobbs.
Ooh, very nice. Very nice. That's a good one.
Nice.
That's a good one.
Okay.
Very, very
That's
nice.
what I was going to say, Neal.
He messaged me. He was like, "Here, you can take it."
Why are you stealing Chris's thunder, Neal?
Jeez,
Stop
Neal,
it.
come on, man. Chris needs his flowers too.
You're just stepping all over him. Yeah, so my name is Jeremy Cobb, but Neal calls me Jasper and Cobbs. I guess he calls me and Jasper Jasper and Cobbs. And as the collective Jasper and Cobbs, I am, in fact, 2/3 of Three Black Halflings.
Perfect. So as we do with everyone, we'll jump in. We'll do a quick interview to get to know you a little bit more, and then we'll jump into the topic we have, which I'm very excited about. But our question number one is always, tell us a little bit about yourselves, long walks on the beach, anything you think our listeners.
Maybe even like how you got started as a group doing this. I think would be.
And if you want me to answer because I know that, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, Neal knows. The story's been told many times.
We explained it on the show. I think at least once, possibly twice, and then we did it on Dragon Talk.
Yeah,
too.
we've done it a few times.
So.
Hey, why don't one of you guys take the intro? See if you know the story. You should definitely know the story by now. Like,
well, this is your chance. This is your chance after you've said it so much, where like you start to finish each other's sentences, and like this is the really cute version.
Absolutely,
of your story now, you know.
Jasper, do you want to start since it did mostly
you do it.
start? Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? Let's give a different version.
Do it from your perspective, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yes. It all started when I introduced Jasper to D&D back in 2019. I had just begun DMing, I think, within a week or two of me meeting Jasper for the first time. And I had gotten into D&D. The first session I had played, I think, was in October of the previous year. This was in March of 2019. So October 2018, I played for the first time. March of 2019, I DM'd for the first time. I met Jasper. I said, "Hey, Jasper," and also the cast of the show that we're in and crew of the show that we're in. Have you guys ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons? It's a cool game. And people were like, "I've heard of it, but I've never played it." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's about to change." And we had almost, I think, every single cast member and crew member.
It was mad. You had to DM for like 8 people.
Yes. And then we also had, from the theater that we were doing the show at, a couple of the dudes from the theater
like
came
guest
in and
characters,
played NPCs. As guests. Yeah, they played guest NPCs. It was a blast. And I did a whole campaign with Jasper that ended at the end of the show, and then the end of that particular play. And then Jasper, you started DMing the fall of that same year. We played together for a while. And then last year during lockdown, we were playing a ton of D&D because we brought back that old campaign as well. And Jasper had a great idea. He thought to himself, "Hey, I really like playing D&D, but how can I turn that into something that is more substantial than me just having a hobby and potentially be something that is who knows, money-making or at least important." So he checked on YouTube, didn't see anything really about black people doing D&D other than Terry Crews guesting on a Critical Role one-shot one time.
That's all it was.
And he came to me because we used to talk about D&D all the time. And he came to me and was like, "Hey, Jeremy, you want to do a D&D show together?" I was like, "Sure." And at one point it was going to be like a podcast and YouTube channel. Then we switched to just a podcast, and then we recorded an episode. It was not good.
It was terrible. Let's be honest. It was terrible. It was bad.
I have never heard it. I just know that it wasn't good.
I have it. I do have it. One day. I feel like it's a Patreon
Neal,
stretch.
Neal, that's what you have to get your hands on right there as the ultimate.
It's the holy grail.
Infiltrate your Patreon community and just have this really big push for like, that's the ultimate Patreon
goal. We recorded that episode. It was a bust. Jasper, what we did enjoy doing is the thing. And Jasper was like, maybe we need a third person. And also to hold our mics in one spot. And also to not have fans running at the same time. And so he went out and got Unati, whom he went to drama school with back in the day, because we wanted a black person and a woman. So we were like, hey, and then as far as the name goes, that's a reference to a character that I had made for Jasper's campaign. Dennis Colespring, he's a black halfling, but the difficulty, the name refers to the difficulty that I had at the time finding any art depicting black halflings. That has changed since late 2018. That situation has changed. But at the time, I could not find any depictions of black halflings except for one that was an obscure subrace that no one knows about that literally lives on another planet. And there's one picture. It's a very blurry image of a couple of black dudes, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm you're probably not going to. Correct me if on the off chance that I'm wrong. But had two of you not met then before, like with the first, like you were meeting in the first episode?
Yeah, so Unati and Jeremy met about 10 minutes before we recorded the first ever episode of Three Black Halflings.
Smokes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It was such a fun experience. Like I always describe it as when you introduce two friendship groups and they just get on really well, and it's like you just sat there like, yes, it's happening. And that was me on that Zoom. I was just like, oh, it's happening. They're bonding. Yes, and it was super fun. They're bonding.
It's like real life dungeon mastering. You're like, yay! Look at the party's just talking amongst themselves, and I don't have to do anything. Yeah.
Oh, those are the best sessions.
And all of us were in taverns as well, retrospectively in taverns on Zoom calls, because that's the only place that you can meet, of course.
So we always ask this question too. You guys are obviously doing the podcast and show, but are there any other things that you all are working on? And we always preface it by saying that you can talk about.
Sure.
So many NDAs.
Anything else we're working on? Can we say like just what we're doing in our lives generally,
Anything.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
cool. Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything noteworthy. There's a few projects in the works. I got cast in my first video game the other day. So that's exciting. That won't be out for a while yet, but that'll be good fun. I'll be voicing several NPCs. The proper like, hey, what was that over there? So I'm looking forward to killing myself, like jumping out the grass and stabbing myself and hearing myself go, ah! Like
I used to be an adventurer like you till I
yes.
took an arrow to the knee.
If
Hopefully
that
you
line's not
get
in
as
there,
epic of a line as that.
it would be incredible. But yeah, otherwise we're on the show. We're always sort of working towards some little various one shots. We've got one in the works at the moment, which should be quite fun. But yeah, that's kind of me, I think. About what I can talk about anyway. What about you guys? What about
Legally at the moment, I think I can talk about being a Laui. Yeah, I can talk about being a Laui. I'm a Laui in League of Legends in the new run.
Nice.
And
Nice.
then I've got a couple of other things with Riot and Blizzard that I can't talk about. And then a couple of other things with Larian that I can't talk about.
I know what they are. Yeah.
And then a couple of Doctor Who things that I can't talk about. No, actually I can talk about The Last Centurion. That was really fun. I enjoyed doing The Last Centurion. That was loads of fun. And then
What's the last Centurion, Unati?
The Last Centurion, what's his name? Is his name Danny or Robbie? What's his name? I did the thing. I read the
You
whole
did the
script.
thing. If you didn't know, then
Listen
you
here.
know.
Listen here.
She did a thing that involved a screen.
I turn up, I say the lines. I was playing Lady Guinevere. It's Emily Pond's partner, and like he goes off and becomes a Last Centurion. It's that whole story arc in Doctor Who, and he gets stuck in Camelot, and then he helps people and tries to save like Arthur and that lot. So it was loads of fun, and I just screamed and did battle stuff in my room. And then I don't know, just being busy, audiobooks, more video games. I need sleep. Please let me sleep.
Here's the thing now. Every time I play League of Legends and I get stomped on by a Laui, I'm going to know who I'm getting mad at.
Yeah.
Yep.
And every time that I stomp on a Laui,
Yeah.
I'm going to feel really bad because I know who I'm stomping on.
Oh no, it's great.
I've had this before in some other games, a different podcast I do has a lot of voice actors that we've talked to, and I'm just like, oh no, I don't know that I like this.
This is
Fourth wall,
great.
keep it up, keep the fourth wall.
No, that was fun. She was fun to play. I liked playing a Kraken priestess who just like stomps on people. It's great.
Yeah. I'm like, don't change my screen color. Come on. This is annoying. I can't see what I'm doing now. Take it back.
Amazing. What about you, Jeremy?
I guess I've not been doing as much. I DM stuff privately, and I work for an online escape room company. Where essentially it's called Agent Venture. By the way, actually, this is a good plug. Check it out. It's actually really good. Basically, you play mission control, and each of you have different roles, you and your team. And the GM plays dispatch as well as the Agent Venture, whom you are guiding on this top secret mission. And they also play all of the other NPCs that you can contact and encounter. And so it's basically you guys as mission control helping guide Agent Venture through this mission. And a lot of fun roles. There's hacking, there's pretending and lying to people, there's navigating things. Yeah, fun. Lots of fun times. That's basically what I've been doing. It's because I've been DMing, doing Three Black Halflings, and doing Agent Venture. It's
nice.
And yet still busy somehow. So
Not like those things won't keep you busy enough.
We do make Jeremy DM everything we do on Three Black Halflings. We're just like, oh, we want to do this thing.
that
Jeremy,
did add to it, yes.
DM for us, please.
So perfect. And we'll have links to all this stuff in the show notes as always, but we have a surprise question, which just means I came up with a question. So this is purely personal. I say we recast a movie, and my suggestion is Back to the Future.
Yay!
Hey.
And you want to know what characters they would play? Is that what you're asking them?
So if you listen to Three Black Halflings, they've recast quite a few movies in the best way possible. First off, I assume that John Boyega is going to be someone, and then we'll kind of go from
Marty
there.
McFly.
So yeah,
That's how it works.
Marty McFly.
Yes, that was my thought as well. So yeah, recasting Back to the Future.
I feel like John Boyega would he could do a good Biff. I feel like John Boyega would have a real fun time doing like that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like playing a big old bully. I feel like he'd enjoy that. Like, and I think if I got to see John Boyega
in the 80s, Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
Forrest Whitaker would have been a really good Biff in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like Platoon era Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, but who could replace
Fast
Doc,
Times.
though? Who would you?
Oh,
I was
yeah.
having a tough time with that one too. Thinking
I know,
either
that's what I'm
80s
thinking.
or modern.
Richard Pryor would be a pretty interesting
Pretty
Doc
fun.
Brown in
Yeah.
the 80s.
Eddie Murphy could be a fun.
You know what? Eddie Murphy honestly could have played multiple roles in that.
Oh
movie.
yeah.
He did that in
Eddie Murphy
multiple movies
could just
in the
do
80s.
an Eddie Murphy and play literally
Like all of
multiple
them.
roles. Yeah.
Whoa!
Yeah.
That would be turn it into an Eddie Murphy vehicle.
Yeah.
He plays Doc Brown and Marty.
Oh man, the thing is, it wouldn't surprise me if that was like if it comes out in like a BuzzFeed article that was the original casting that like Spielberg wanted, but like Eddie wanted too much money. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like that's an article
Yeah.
that I probably read.
That would be cool.
That would be very
I would
cool.
watch that.
I'd watch the hell out of that.
Which makes me think of the rumor that was around for a long time, the rumored sequel to Twins. And Eddie Murphy was going to be the third of that group. So it was going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito. It was going to be called Triplets. And
So then just call it triplets.
yeah, and the third was going to be Eddie Murphy. So, thank you.
I don't know if those. I don't know if they
Somebody
would have known what to do with
Thank-
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, thank you deep in my heart for making me remember that wonderful fact.
Oh man, that is wild.
Are they? I haven't.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
I've
agree
seen
with you,
that
Chris.
film.
What would they have done with it?
Are they
I
biologically
don't know.
related in the film? Are they they
Yeah,
biologically?
they're actual twins.
Okay. I feel like
The idea is that all of they were trying to create. They were part of like a program that was trying to create like the perfect human, and it produced Arnold Schwarzenegger, but all of the leftover stuff got dumped into Danny DeVito.
Oh, Danny DeVito
Poor
just gets
Danny.
bloody
Poor
wailed on
Danny.
all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time. He's oh,
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? He's
could
made
be
millions.
average
I'm
and
sure
special,
that
too.
Yeah,
makes
I
up
feel like
for
he was
some of the
cool with
wailing.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah.
Always sunny.
He's a beloved person
Oh, yeah.
nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we're going to finally jump into the topic at hand. And so today we're doing another Raw Real Monsters episode. And we're doing one kind of like we've done in the past. If you're a longtime listener, you know that we have thrown multiple monsters into episodes before. And that's what we're going to do here. And I am excited to hear all of the ideas because I think we'll also inevitably try and tie them together to give you more of a concept of what you would do with all of them. So actually, Unati, if you want to start, what you want to present your monster that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I'm a fan of a Drider, you know. Look, the Drow have long been problematic. I mean, we understand that, but as part of like a process of reclaiming stuff, I quite enjoy the Drider, sorry, rather, even though it is a punishment like sort of brought down by Lolth on Drow who fail her, usually kind of cleric types, her acolytes, who are then punished to forever walk the planet as half sort of Drow, half spider creature. I enjoy the fact that they tend to generally be women because it's already quite a matriarchal actual society. And I like to take what the book says and then go, no, thank you. Bye. and then kind of give them my own sort of twist, whether it's a curse or whether they have willfully gone and taken on this extra power so that they can be more fearsome. But I think they're loads of fun. They've got a beefy natural armor class of 19 already.
Ooh.
So they're quite spicy, you know? And then 123 hit points. They get 13 d10s. And they've got a climbing speed of 30 feet as well, which is pretty good. They're like more they've got pretty good constitution and like dex and strength based. And I mean, they're spiders, so they're like super stealthy and like, you know, move around a lot. But I think you can have a lot of fun sort of playing with a drow because I keep calling them drow. Driders, because, well, they kind of are, like, sort of like in lore, they sort of are. But I sort of like to reclaim them and sort of play out my weird mermaids at sea fantasies, luring people into dark caves and wrapping them up in spider webs and slowly eating them. And I think and I think also, like, it has been done before, I think, in Escape from Bloodkeep, where, like, they can also just be player characters as well. So
Lilith. Lilith.
Yeah. So I really just enjoy them. I think they're really, really fun. You want to know more about their stats?
Yes, I do. One of the things that really tripped me out, because I pulled it up as well once you started talking about it, was that there wasn't, and I mean, this is the terrible DM in all of us. I would add back Tremor Sense, because I totally thought that was going to be there. And I unless I'm missing it, because I'm just like, let's make it even scarier. Hey.
Or at least, at the very least, like a web sense or something. You know,
something.
Tremor Sense through the web.
Yeah. That's why I sometimes go,
the lair.
Thanks, bye. Put stuff in. I mean, like, because of their fey ancestry, they've got advantage on saving throws against being charmed. Magic can't put them to sleep. That's fairly obvious. Their innate spellcasting ability is Wisdom. With a spell save DC of 13, and they can cast Dancing Lights, and then once time per day they can cast Darkness or Fairy Fire, and then depending on if you can like take them in and just throw them into like a setting as a bunch of monsters, or you can give them like a whole backstory, and then they can retain some of the abilities they had before they went through the change. So there could be other spells hanging over there. That's why I'm like, you can kind of like flex them a bit and pick and mix a bit and have a bit of fun if you want. Then they've got Spider Climb. The Drider can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings. I mean, spider, without needing to make an ability check. Sunlight sensitivity. They like to live in caves, dark, dank sort of places. That's usually where they like to live, but you can mess with that if you want to, because I have seen many spiders vexing me in broad daylight in my shower while I'm trying to bathe, and I don't want to be freaked out. And then I'm scared and jumping out and nearly dying.
Well, and what's cool about that is like you take one of those things that's like known about like drow and people that are from the Underdark of the sunlight sensitivity, and it's automatically like, should I be worried that I'm seeing this in the broad daylight, or is this something that's intriguing to me that I want to figure out more? Like, it's an interesting story point, because everybody, when you play D&D long enough, you start to figure out like an orc is an orc, a goblin is a goblin, a human is a human. Like you take those things and change them, put something in a different context. It's like, oh, I should pay attention to that.
And and it's really fun. And then they get a bit of web walker. The Drider ignores movement restrictions caused by webbing. I mean, obviously they're a spider. And then, you go kind of like attacks and stuff. But what I find really fun is the fact that the reason why spiders are terrifying to humans is because they don't have a preparation. They just move. So, like, in terms of, like, when you're kind of RPing them, if you've got, like, let's say a couple, like, in a dark cave, let's say, just to be basic, you can just have them appear out of nowhere. And just, in terms of how you describe them, it's not, oh, you hear a scuttling. It's in front of you, out of nowhere, a spider is by your face to your left side. Because spiders don't necessarily prepare for movement, and that's why they're terrifying to humans. And that's why I like to taunt my players.
Plus, also, there's nothing better as a DM than when your players with that stupid grin on their face, like, that's an 18, I assume that hits. And you're like, nope. And what? What do you mean?
No,
18 doesn't hit? Like,
And that was natural armor. If you want to chuck on like a little bit of extra
else,
bits
literally.
there, you could make it, you know.
Yeah, they're intelligent. They could equip armor.
Yeah.
An armored spider is quite creepy.
Yeah, that was my thought. Like making them, like you said, Unati, making it that choice that the NPC or the PC has made, I think changes everything about everything about it, because especially so you've made that intentional choice, and then everything that they're going to do from there is going to be an intentional choice. And how much more terrifying is this monster when it's doing everything it wants to do?
Exactly. And also what I really enjoy about monsters that are quote unquote intelligent is that like then there's the room to negotiate. Then there's the room to have a conversation. You don't have to just go, let's throw down. Yeah. What if, it depends on when in the campaign this has been thrown in. Has Lolth appeared before? Is there potential that some Driders absolutely hate this goddess now, and there might be opportunity to get them on side. You know, like then it opens up a whole bunch of things, because now you've got this intelligent creature that, yes, is absolutely trying to kill you. But if you give it something that it may want, I don't know.
That's literally been the most fun thing that I've been doing with this campaign so far, is like helping our players know that you just don't hack and slash things because they're quote unquote bad standing right in front of you. Like you might actually be able to use them to your benefit, or they can trick you into using you for their benefit, you know?
Exactly.
And like it's a whole story element that just like you may find out 5 sessions from now, like, that was for my benefit, and now it's not, and that's not fun anymore.
Exactly. I mean, Driders need blood every 4 days. What if they're running low on supply? Could you supply blood, even if it's ox blood? I think does it have to be human? No, it can be any form of blood. Yeah, every 4 days they must consume. So you could trade. That's sometimes my Drider voice. They're usually very sweet and lovely, and then they suck the brains out.
It's also, you could even convince them to help you fight other people.
Yeah.
If you're like, you can have, when these people die, there you go.
There you go.
How about
you got them. They're all yours.
How about it?
You know, little scavenger situation, vulture situation. You scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of vibe. So, yeah, I really love them because I think they're quite versatile. There's loads to do with backstory in there if you want to like really stretch them out as like a kind of medium big bad or like a plot point. But also they're great fun monsters to just throw in and like have a kind of effects and have a good time with it, you know? If you just want to go like classic spider.
It's a good thing we have that sound recorded. We can use that for our own home games now.
Immediately in front of you is a Drider. Click.
Yeah. Click.
Awesome. So
that's amazing.
So we'll jump in. I know we're going to circle back around. Jasper, you're up, and I'm very excited that this is at the forefront of your mind. This is what you want to talk about.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite creatures that I've ever played with. So I've gone for the Beholder Zombie. There's a few reasons up top why I really like the Beholder Zombie. Part of it is that it's kind of rare. I feel like unless you're running like a campaign for a long time or you start at a high level, that you actually can really face a Beholder without killing your party. Like most of the time, Beholders are in a lair, so they get advantage because of that. They're stupidly high DC. They have so many things that can just like insta kill your party or like put them in very compromising situations. So Beholders are so super fun for a DM, but it can be a little tricky to get them into your campaign if your players aren't like at least level 10, 11, probably 12. Like they're kind of crazy, especially if you've got a lot of spellcasters in the group.
Oh yeah.
So for me, when I came across the Zombie Beholder, I was like, oh, slightly nerfed, but still just as interesting Beholder, which I think from experience does elicit the same level of dread in my players when they see it. When I run this, I normally have like I had like a specific counter that I ran with this, and it worked super well. So Zombie Beholder, you've got an armor class of 15, 93 hit points. It has a flying speed or like a hovering speed of 20 feet. Minus to dex, it's got minus to wisdom, charisma, so it's not going to make any saving throws, so you don't have to worry about that necessarily. But you get undead fortitude, which is super fun. If damage reduces a zombie to 0 hit points, then you make a Constitution saving throw, which they get a +3 for, I believe, which is DC of 5 plus the damage taken unless it's radiant or critical. And on a success, the zombie just drops to 1 hit point instead. As well, I just want to point this out for DMs, this is not a one-time use thing. This happens every single time. Like, this thing could keep bouncing back up, like, literally like a football. Like, it's kind of crazy. And then you get a bite attack, but I mean, realistically, like, you probably don't want to use that. You get 4 eye rays, which is really, really fun. So with the 4 eye rays, you've got Paralyzing Ray, which is a DC 14, or you're paralyzed for a full minute, and you can repeat the save at the end of the turn. Fear Ray, which is DC 14 again, or be frightened for 1 minute. Enervation Ray, the target must make a Constitution saving throw of 14, or take 8d8 of necrotic damage, or half as much for the successful one. And then there is Disintegration Ray. Now this is really fun. If the target is a creature, it must succeed a DC 14 dexterity saving throw or take 45 points of force damage. If the target is reduced to 0 hit points, the body becomes a pile of grey dust.
And the only reason you say that it's fun is because you're a DM. That's why you get to say it's fun.
Yes. Well, actually, this is... So I've got a little fun story attached to this. So basically, in my, I think, 3rd ever session DMing, I threw this at my players because all the 3 players that were playing were pretty experienced, and I was like, yeah, they'll be able to handle this. It'll be fine. We got towards sort of like the end of the fight, and the zombie beholder was looking pretty rough. One of my players tried to like do a goof. Basically, they were getting away. It was all fine, and they tried to do a goof and ended up basically staying within the zombie beholder's range. And I was like, cool. They're gonna shoot a ray. Landed on a 4, and I was like, oh, Disintegration Ray, cool, no worries. Rolled, basically, they failed the save, and I'm pretty sure they got reduced within like 2 or 3 hit points of falling to 0, and would have just turned to dust. So there would have been no saves, nothing. That have literally just...
Yeah, I don't remember. It might have even been that they had Bardic Inspiration.
That was it. That was it. Yeah.
I think it was without the Bardic Inspiration, they would have failed, and the damage that you rolled was enough to kill them.
Yes. And they would have just turned to dust, which is, kind of wild. And so, so basically the way I set this one up is, the group walked into it's like abandoned town, and there was quite a hilarious thing where the 2 black PCs were like, they walked into the town, went, hell no, walked out again. The white PC was like, nah guys, it'll be fine, let's go. And they were like, no, we don't want to do this. And they walked in and basically saw like faces of like these sort of zombified creatures like in the window just staring out at them. And I actually placed the beholder zombie in a well in the center of town, with a little roof over the top of the well, and basically the beholder zombie on its turn would just kind of pop out of the well, shoot some beams, and then just dip back below, and it worked really well. And then basically what I gave was effectively like an infinite number of like 1 hit point zombies that this zombie beholder had basically like killed everyone in the town and resurrected them as zombies. So there was a bunch of like cannon fodder like in the way, so any melee fighters had to really had to get in close. And I think you were playing a monk at the time, Jeremy, and I remember you just being endlessly frustrated because you were like, I just can't get to it, there's so many freaking zombies in the way. But that was a really, really fun encounter. And yeah, so if you've got an itch as a DM to play with a beholder, this is a great way to play with one and not risk killing your party. Plus, also, you
as
could
long
quite
as
easily...
they have bardic inspiration.
Yes, make sure there's a bard in the party. Otherwise, it's game over.
It's all over at that point.
All over. But yeah,
guaranteed TPK.
And you could easily like beef this up as well. Just you could sprinkle in a few of the beholder things. You can maybe give it a legendary reaction or something like that if you wanted to make it a little bit tougher as well. But it's a nice little entry level thing, and you can create a real. I think it's kind of like you said, Chris. It's like going from taking something that people are very familiar with and kind of giving it a bit of a different spin, which is why I particularly enjoyed this creature. So yeah, zombie beholder. Beholder zombie. Use it. It's fun.
I think
I feel bad about what I'm going to say because I feel like someone will do it and then I feel bad for their players. Like that's, that's how it works in my head.
No, don't feel bad,
Okay.
Neal. Their players don't listen to this.
Well,
show.
true. So
This is only for DMs. They don't.
They
listen.
should.
So again,
They should.
The idea of putting the two together, like I'm getting some serious like Michonne vibes of having that Drider and then having two zombie beholders like there together and just how terrifying it is. And then like,
Jeez.
getting to describe that because also like it's just been prolific beyond reason. Like a lot of the zombie media that we've all been able to consume, but then that allows you as that DM, like I can take a lot of time and effort to describe these coming out, and that's that hover speed, but it's that like kind of sickly bumping into the walls of the cavern and possibly hitting the top and just like going towards the players. But yeah, it's just the idea of
I quite like that actually because they got seriously low intelligence because they are a zombie. Like I really love the idea that maybe this once beholder has now been kind of is now in servitude of like a Drider or something like that. That could be a really fun, like the Drider using zombie beholders as like bodyguards. Like that's so wildly terrifying.
yeah, well,
I just the thing that I was thinking about is like what's the story behind why this thing is a zombie? Like what
absolutely.
thing was so powerful that it killed a beholder that now just like left it wandering around
and like
wherever
raised it back
is.
as a zombie as well. Like I feel like because most even in mechanical terms, most spells that can bring something back to life, it has to be a pretty low level creature to do it to. Do you know what I mean? We're talking like this is probably lich level magic to take a creature as powerful as a beholder and raise it again as sort of a zombified version. So yeah, there's really interesting narrative stuff that could happen.
Yeah, I just imagine the first time like a player's like, oh, that's interesting. I cast Speak with the Dead with this thing. Like I got to imagine that's a super interesting conversation with a beholder that's probably like PO'd because it was so powerful. Now it's been a zombie for so long. And it's like, maybe they want to help give you all the information to go and be able to take down this big bad because they're just pissed about the fact that they were killed. You know, there's so many fun things that you could do with that.
Yeah, especially with them being such intelligent creatures like in life. You know what I mean? I think that there's like it's such a fun flip of this of the sort of like the norm of this creature for sure.
The best part is I think we can actually jump over, and I think Jeremy has the answer to who could have made this zombie beholder. Because I will let you introduce your monster, and it immediately made me think of like this could be our answer.
Yeah, my monster is the Hag. Not any one specific kind of hag, but just hags in general. I think that they're extremely versatile. They can be used in either low-level campaigns or high-level campaigns, especially if you take some of the higher CR Fey creatures, such as, what is the Sea Fury?
Sea Fury,
you can take the Sea Fury and reskin it as a hag. But essentially, it's... I think my favorite aspect of it is actually the RP element, because everybody that I know at least grew up with the tales of the scary cabin in the woods or in the wilderness that you arrive and there's this creepy hag type figure, you know, the Hansel and Gretel, etc., etc., etc. And that's really what the hag taps into. Mechanically, most of them are not crazy strong. You get a lot of like CR 5, 6, 7, which is solid, but doable for like as long as your party is like at least like level 4 or 5, they can probably take down such a hag. But I think it's about the fact that hags are Fey, and because they deal in Fey magic, I think that gives you leeway to bend the rules of the game and give hags abilities that creatures normally wouldn't have. There may not be a spell for that exactly approximates what this hag is doing. And if you really want to just go mechanical and make your hag more powerful that way, you can make them part of a coven.
Yes.
Where you have a group of hags who gain access to more spells.
Those are so much fun.
All much stronger than they are individual. Yeah, exactly.
And it really heightens, if I'm not wrong, coven variant hags as well. They get like heightened damage output and things like that. Yeah.
And much better spells. You can have hags that can cast polymorph suddenly. And a lot of the hags also have just cool little abilities. Like the sea hag has a pretty cool ability called Death Glare. She has a quality that is called Horrific Appearance. And if you any humanoid that starts its turn within 30 feet must make a DC 11 Wisdom saving throw, and on a failed save, the creature is frightened for 1 minute. But the hag has an ability called Death Glare. If there is a creature within 30 feet of her that is frightened, it must succeed on a DC 11 Wisdom save or drop to 0 hit points. So it's essentially, it can combo into a Death Glare and just knock down a party member very easily.
Well, that's the thing with a bunch of hags, that there's like that combination effect that like they're not so like mechanically and damage wise, they're not so scary all the time. Now the Ani's hag is just like, if it reaches you, it's going to crush you. Like that's its thing. But like, you think about the night hag or the dusk hag. Like I think it's the night hag. Like if you're asleep, if it puts you to sleep, and then it like, I think it's like eats your dreams or whatever it is, like it's going to crush you, right? Like it's going to hurt, but it takes 2 turns to get to that, you know?
That D&D life where he just casually, without any inflection, was like, and it eats your dreams. And then more words follow that.
Like, it's being a DM, man. Like, this is how we talk
This is
about
how
it.
we talk, yeah.
I'm on a list for my Google searches, and I'm sure we all are. I don't know what that list is, but I'm on it.
But I'm on it, yeah. Going back to the Sea Hag, though, Jeremy, you remember the first PC death I ever had to deal with was at the hands of a Sea Fury. And this actually happened because they have a Bestow Curse as one of their spells. That is like a crazy thing.
Is it disadvantage on just wisdom saves or whatever kind
of save I think you choose. Disadvantage on an ability check or saving throw that becomes and she
gave him disadvantage on wisdom saves, right?
Yes, wisdom saves, and then they get disadvantage on attacks against you, which is wild. And then if it's whilst cursed, the target has to make a wisdom saving throw at the start of each of its turns, and if it fails, it wastes its action for that turn and does nothing. It's just so crazy. And then if you couple that with the fact that if the Sea Fury is close to you, you've then got to make a wisdom saving throw or 16 and drop to 0 hit points. So if you do that at disadvantage, it's kind of likely.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, there's nothing more frightening as a player to watch one of your compatriots fall to the ground immediately. Just being like, maybe we didn't think this was as big of a deal, and now our friend is just dead. Like, there's a difference between like getting slowly hit down, like, hey, you're taking 11 points of damage over and over and over. It's a different thing to have like, hey, I've got 50 health points, and now I'm just gone, just done. You know? Done. Like that's frightening.
This is one of my favorite ever stories. My chaos group, as I call them, they rolled up out of this town. They just saved this town. They were all properly high on life. So they were just like, hey, let's go. And I described basically that they were on the road, and one of them rolled quite a high perception check. I was like, oh, you spot like there's a graveyard like buried in a thicket of trees. And as you get, and they were like, oh, we'll go check it out. And they got a bit closer, and there was like this big, it was super eerie, dilapidated looking church. And there was basically a bunch of ghosts inside. I had like this huge long backstory about what these ghosts were doing and how they related to the town they just came from. And it was going to make them feel conflicted about what they just did in the town, all this kind of stuff. And basically one of the players, because they were so like hyped up, they saw a ghost face like in the window, and they turned around to their friends and just went, hey, you want to mess up some ghosts? And then like their friends went, yeah, why not? So he just eldritch blasted this ghost, right? Turns out this ghost was a wight. Is it a wight, I believe? Basically has the wail once per day.
Banshee.
Banshee, so that's the one. So Banshee, the Banshee just came out of the church, wailed one time. 3 out of 4 party members dropped to 0 hit points. They failed a DC 11 wisdom saving throw. 3 of 4 dropped down to 0 hit points immediately. And the one that was left was a warlock. And he was just like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't save all of my friends. I have no healing at all.
And he was the one that cast Eldritch Blast to begin with, wasn't he? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My first thought is also like, this is why warlocks end up being one of the more interesting classes from, especially an RP perspective. Because my thing is like, if I was the warlock, I'd be like, damn it, I might have a new patron. like this is my only hour. Like, hey, whatever you need, like we're good now.
Just
we're
let
together.
me know.
And like, but the fact that that's even a possibility is such a cool thing about that class. Yeah, I was gonna say also with the hag, also definitely with the Drider that has 2 zombie beholders.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really want the Drider to have like the zombie beholders on like chains.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like that feels genuinely
Total
quite
leash on
terrifying. Like you hear the sound of chains being dragged and you're like, oh, what's it going to be? And actually it's like a floating creature that's dragging these chains behind. And then you just see this spider human. Oh man, like that's... that's...
Well, I also think of like not seeing the Drider, because your players are going to be so hyper focused on the zombie beholders, and then, like Unati said, you're just it's just there. It's
just there.
It's
Yeah.
Spider.
Well, it's just there.
Yeah. She's just been on the ceiling the whole time.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to say the Drider could have been holding on to the chain at some point and then just let go and disappeared. And 2 rounds in, the Drider just drops down behind your players, and you're just like, you get hit, but you feel a sword get shoved into your back. You have no idea why or how, and then you turn around and there's a Drider. It's like,
Yeah.
Insert sound effect.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Click.
If you really, the other nice thing with the hag is that there's a fair amount of versatility in terms of how like dark tonal you want to go, because it could just be like a kind of creepy storybook hag, but then on the other end of it you have the Bure hag or Bware hag. I'm really not. I guess it's Bure hag probably, that has the ability Maddening Feast. If there is an enemy within 5 feet of her that has died within the past minute, she can eat them. And every creature within of her choice that is within 60 feet of her and able to see her must succeed on a DC 15 Wisdom save or be frightened of her for 1 minute. While frightened in this way, a creature is incapacitated, can't understand what others say, can't read, and speaks only in gibberish. The DM controls the creature's movement, which is erratic. A creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on its success. Blah, blah, blah. The same is basically the same as any other monster saving throw. But it could just straight up start eating peeps.
That's like, that would be so horrific if you've just lost like a PC.
Yeah.
And the hag just jumps on them and starts eating. Oh, my.
Yeah, and then you fail
Just
and
jumps in there.
You're also, it's just being described. You're having no interaction, because I mean you're having a normal interaction to the occurrence in front of you, but just like you don't have any recourse. It's just,
I wish I had some celery now. I can make the sound of bone snapping.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many things you could do with that too. Like if you know you're going to this hag out in the middle of like this mountain or forest or whatever, this hag may keep people around when she knows that people are coming. And as you're walking up to the house, you hear a shriek. You know, like she has killed somebody, knowing that these people that might be coming are going to try and harm her in some way. And so she's already prepared, because she's intelligent, for this moment to be like, this is how I frighten people, and I've planned for this moment, you know? Because otherwise you have to like wait for a PC to fall and then they start devouring the corpse. And it's like, well, we can think ahead on this and make the mechanics a little bit more,
you keep a little farm of people.
Yeah. You know?
as a scare tactic.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That does raise a good point though, because like I think especially with like all 3 of the creatures that we've just mentioned there, like ways to like make them more threatening or like even deadly for a party. Like think about environmental stuff as well, like as just like their abilities, because in like all of these cases, if you put them in an environment that is suitable for them and like and potentially going to disadvantage your players, you make them vastly stronger. Do you know what I mean? Like me giving that zombie beholder cover effectively made it so much more difficult for the party to just hit it. Like it doesn't have a lot of hit points, but if the party can't hit it and it's doing these things, then makes a big difference. And again, if the hag can prepare, I mean, you know, if the hag's got a game plan going in, that's a whole different thing to catching a hag like unawares, you know?
Yeah.
I think maybe Jasper, you mentioned it earlier, and I think it's one of the really fun ways as a DM to kind of turn things up a little bit is to add that layer action, because what it does is it spreads out like the activity of the monster, because I'm just guaranteeing that it's on initiative 20. And then where am I in that initiative order on the outside of that? And I think that's what makes that monster scarier, is that this is going to happen here, But then what else are they going to do over? I'm making hand motions because you can all see me. It will happen on initiative 20, and then like on the actual initiative count that they rolled, something else will happen. And so I think that's no matter what the CR is, thinking about something like a layer action because they have prepared is a really good way to kind of turn the dial in. Again, like going back to what Chris said, turning things on its head of just like, wait, hold up. What are we doing here? This is a CR3. What do you mean there's a layer action? And I'm like, well, like you went into their home, like home layer, whatever, like they're ready for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And bringing all of this together and adding an additional element, I have a story. So the additional element is the aspect of fey creatures in general, and depending on how far you want to go with it, playing by sort of fey rules, where sometimes what you say is taken very literally or reinterpreted to the other creature's advantage. You have to be extremely careful. There's all this specific etiquette. You can't eat or drink anything, etc., and it's all transactional. I had introduced a hag into one of my campaigns that was basically a gatekeeper who would enable the players to travel into the Feywild. But she had actually, I had introduced a mechanic whereby in order to travel from the Feywild to the Prime Material or from the Prime Material to the Feywild, you needed to give something up. Because since those planes are reflections of each other, you're kind of unbalancing them by leaving. So you have to leave something behind. And if you don't give it up, then essentially those planes will conspire and take it from you in some way. Bad things will befall you. And so this hag had given up her ability to see. But essentially it was the hag from Hansel and Gretel. And she had a stable of people there disguised as animals that she'd enchanted to look like animals and had under her control. That essentially if things go bad and this comes to a fight, she can start chowing down, and not only that, but regain. I had it so she could also regain hit points by doing that. But essentially, it was like you have all of these rules where it's like the players have to. There's the creepiness of the little cabin at the edge of the cliff side. All of the villages around live in fear of this person. No one even mentions her name. There's all these legends about her. And then when you arrive, it's this little lady who can't see but still somehow knows everything that's happening around her and is moving with complete confidence, even though you're all a bunch of strangers who've shown up at her house. And like one thing after another, I got one of the party members to basically agree to go behead Hansel and Gretel once they got into the Feywild because they said the wrong thing and they were too afraid of trying to say no. So they were basically like, okay, I'll go do it. And you were going to cut off Hansel and Gretel's heads and put them in the stove that the witch had been burned in from the story. She was like, haha, get back at him. So it's like and then they didn't realize who she was until like right when she sent them through the portal. And as they passed through, the enchantment on herself lifted so they could see that she was horribly burned. And then all of the little animals around were actually people who were all screaming. And it was like, oh no. Oh no. Like it became, I feel like that, and an encounter like that ends up being extremely memorable. And the hag, because of the cultural history surrounding the hag as an idea, gives you a lot more leeway to play with the rules of how all of this works in a way that you don't get to with a lot of other monsters. And that's why I really like the hag.
Like I was just thinking the entire time you were talking about the hag and like the people that were like polymorphed essentially into animals. I was like, what if they're all former adventurers that like the city below had like tried to get to go up there and take care of this hag? They just didn't tell you about this before you went up there in hopes of like, maybe these will be the people that can do that,
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Chris. I didn't say this on stream, but because she is the Hansel and Gretel hag, she eats kids. And so all of the surrounding villages, in order to have a proper relationship with her, she will control the weather for them and make the weather favorable. And in exchange, each village will give her one child a year, as well as any child from any village they're able to catch. So all the villages outside of those villages have big walls and never let their kids outside. They're all on like leashes and stuff because if they get free, there's a very real risk of those kids getting captured and taken to the hag. So all those people were actually just kids that were screaming around the circle.
I was gonna say too, and you probably have entire villages that like don't have kids. Like everybody's like 30 and older,
Exactly.
Which is like, you don't
It
think
was a lot
about
of
that.
fun.
Like you don't always think to look like, are there children around in this town? You know, like you might have to have somebody have a really high passive perception to notice something like that. Like, hey, you're walking around, you see dogs, you see animals, you see people, but they're all over 30. You know,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's weird.
I love
Bizarre.
putting in those little things because you're just like you're tempting the player like come on think
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
this for a second like you know
Yeah.
And the party had a kid with them to make matters worse. One of the PCs had a child who was like he was like 16, but still like enough of an age range to be like, this is maybe not the guy you want to bring in
yeah
to talk to this lady. But yeah, a lot of fun.
So my thought was, let's go back around and kind of like final thoughts on either the monsters you brought up, the monster someone else brought up, and just like, I guess, yeah, one final round of like awesome and honestly very terrifying ideas that we have plagued other people with.
Other people's players.
Yeah,
Neal.
sorry.
We haven't plagued
Yes.
them with. We've gifted.
I
them.
don't know.
we have gifted
So yeah, Unati, what is kind of like, yeah, just like I said, final round of kind of last thoughts.
Yeah, like last thoughts on them. I guess for me, I'm more sort of intrigued about the Drider that chooses to take on the spider legs. Like that for me is kind of like, ooh, how crazy is that person? Like what's knocking about and what's their end goal? To want to become some sort of aberration to be able to achieve it. And that just kind of like then sends me spinning in terms of like creative provocation and like what that could possibly be. Yeah, that's pretty much my sort of last thought on that.
It also opens up the possibility of having other fantasy races make that choice. If it's like a choice, why not have a gnome Drider, a Niter running around?
Yeah, like, you know, if somebody wants to go have that conversation with Lolth, they're more than welcome to.
I was gonna say, is it like the normal Drider, like bulbous back and legs, and then like tiny gnome on top?
Little tiny gnome.
Yeah.
Arak Rider? I mean, that could be
that would be horrific.
that would be truly horrendous. I mean, a bird face on a spider? No.
Okay, see, but then just like with D&D, then my first thought is like we started like veering off to the side. Then I was like, oh, Meloxodon did it.
Oh
my word!
A lighter. It's
Oh
just
my
an
word.
elephant on top of it.
This is a fun game.
shooting webs out of its trunk.
Yeah, the spider legs are just struggling to keep up with the weight of the elephant. Just like, oh, God.
Complete
wow.
abomination.
Wow. Yeah. Truly horrendous.
So Jasper, any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are that I've used Hags a lot in my games, and this has just made me think even more about like the situational elements, or like, you know, Hags having a bit more, I guess, space to like, what do they want, what do they need, and I love the idea of I've set up a bit of a mechanic whereby like Hags are more powerful in their own domain or in the Feywild itself, or and I sort of, I'm the same as Jeremy, and I think that I want to definitely push it further, and like maybe some of the things they can do aren't explicitly mechanically like sound, as long as they're not sort of world breaking. Just because I think that if you want to add that little sense of terror to your party, you know, having, you know, little things happen that just don't seem like possible, like, you know, making a player like stop talking or something, like they can't open their lips. Like I feel like that would just like that really.
Yeah, you just see skin grow over their mouth or something.
Like that is
like
truly like. You know, and just getting players, you know, one of my favorite things to do, and I feel like you could do it all the time with the Hag, is just go, cool, can I get a charisma saving throw, please? And then they roll, and you just go, okay, cool. Like, I feel like you've just got so much scope to do that as a, you know, with the Hag, and just sort of like, oh yeah, you'll find out what happened at some point. You know, like it'll happen. Like you'll find out.
Yeah, I agree. There is a limit, though. I do have to say. I may say this only because I played in a game one time where we had just reached level 2, and the DM had a trio of Hags show up.
Oh wow!
And stop time for an entire village indefinitely. Just could pause the village.
Wow, that's
and
yeah,
they
that's
had in their employ, I think, a giant I can't remember if it was a chimera or what else, but it was like all
You
this
were
stuff
level
is
2?
like,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
level
you were
2.
level 2?
We
Yeah,
can't-
the faces.
we can't
If you
win.
could see the faces in the
Is-
Zoom call as you described it.
Yeah.
Is that a
It was just
TPK?
like, this is a...
Like, that sounds like TPK to me.
I did not continue with that campaign.
I was
How
gonna say,
many-
is that where it
Very much
ended?
longer.
Like,
Yeah.
you just like, hey,
That's a
TPK,
TPK.
like.
This is when we find out there
Yeah.
were 25 player characters in that session.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, fine.
Oh, okay, fine, fine.
On an
Got it,
action
got
economy
it.
basis, at least 2 of them
Yes, then
survive.
we have a shot.
You know.
And that's because they
But
ran
it's-
away.
yeah, when you're stopping time, it's like, that's like a level 9, isn't that a 9th level
Ninth
spell?
level
And you
spell.
It only does it for 1 round?
Yeah.
Or not even 1 round.
No, I think
yeah,
it's
1 round. It stops it for 1 round.
I think it's a D4 round. Like I think it can be
okay.
up to 4 rounds. I think is like
yeah,
the
so
limit,
these hags can cast epic level magic, and we're
that's like
level
epic
2.
boon level stuff. Like that's
Yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah.
Jeremy, any other thoughts?
I'm now really intrigued by the idea of a hag Drider, a hider.
Well, obviously.
Where it's like
Boy.
a hag who has made this decision, and just it's like she pulls up her skirt and just like you see all these like little spider legs just start to unfold, and she rises up with like her staff and all this stuff. Yeah, could be a lot of fun.
That actually does remind me. I did do. This is actually linked to the Zombie Beholder, and I should have mentioned it earlier. I did have a instance where a curse had been laid upon this like a whole like city basically, and the big bad at the bottom of the basement effectively was a giant whose head had been removed, and a Zombie Beholder had like attached itself like to the head as like as its head. And was like controlling it. So basically the idea was that it gave the Zombie Beholder then like some really serious threat at like close range as well, because they were wielding like a giant like axe that they were just swinging around with like a 10-foot reach.
With all these irate.
Yeah, it was a very wild encounter, but like really, really fun. So
Welcome to
that's
D&D,
another,
folks, where stuff like that happens.
yeah, and that's normal.
Yeah, right.
Wow. Okay, so I know I had mentioned the homework section, and we can quickly hit through that if anything had come up. So like I can take a couple real quick as examples of things that really stuck out to me. So for the Drider, it made me think of Saga, the comic series, and
Yeah, it's definitely
and
what
the
I love
stock.
about it. Yeah.
And just like
And the stock.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
absolutely
all the motivation behind that, and then making it going so many different ways of even an NPC that they interact with on a regular basis, and then that tenuous relationship of, well, are we all gonna die? We might, or
Yeah.
not. I don't know.
Yeah, like the Stalk is absolutely my favorite rendition. Like she's a beautiful character. And I love the fact that she has no arms.
Yeah.
Because her legs are the arms.
You don't need them. The other one I thought was kind of to help with the hags. Not that it is a overwhelmingly great piece of cinema, but the Hansel and Gretel with Jeremy Renner in
Oh,
it.
yeah.
There's a lot of
yeah.
D&D stuff to take from that. So like usually some subpar movies are great D&D inspiration to pick out pieces and parts and add them into your.
Well, movies like that usually have like really interesting lore stuff, right? It's what makes them like actually genuinely interesting in the first place. But the execution isn't always the best. But like usually there's like elements of it that you go, oh, actually this is like, I think I've had the same reaction to it was like Snow White and the Huntsman. I was like, this film sucks, but like there's some really interesting takes on this story, like that I've not heard before, and so yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that.
I guess I'd throw in for the hag also looking up. I know Fables has some pretty interesting, powerful witches in it, the comic Fables, and also checking out just folklore in general. Like if you go back to the original stories that a lot of these monsters are drawn from, you can see what made them scary in the first place, and bring elements of that into it. Stuff like Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga is a treasure trove of ideas. Just go check out some folklore about hags. There's some good stuff in there.
So the other most important question we have, by far and away, is where can people go to see all of the awesome work that you're doing? League of Legends gets stomped out, so that's the number one. But where else can they go on the wonderful internet and find all you're doing?
So we are available wherever you get your podcasts from. So that is just Three Black Halflings. And yeah, anywhere you get podcasts, you should find us. If you find a place where you can't find us, let us know. We'll put it up there too. And we're also available on all social medias at TB Halflings. We have a Discord as well, which is a really, really fun place where we have lots of conversations like this. There's a conversation happening at the moment, I think, about the new Unearthed Arcana that she just got released today. So loads of really, really cool things happening over there. And then, we also have a Patreon as well. So if you want like bonus episodes and more discussion and deep dives and all this kind of stuff, we do all kinds of stuff on there as well. So I think that's covered everything. Would you say, guys? TB Halflings wise?
Yeah, if you want to go hear the first episode that wasn't any good, you got to head over to the Patreon. Yeah, here it's one of the rewards.
Yeah.
Because Neal is going to start pushing that as a goal.
He's going to
stretch goal.
Yeah. Where can people find each of you individually if they want to follow you outside of the show as well?
So I am on Twitter at JW_Cartwright, I believe, and Jasper W. Cartwright, I think, on Instagram. So that's where you can find me if you want to follow me personally.
Don't follow me? No, you can. I'm at LU Lewis Nyao on Twitter and on Instagram. What am I? I think Luyanda Lewis Nyao on Instagram. I should probably make those things one thing, but you know, I mean, But yeah, I'm around. There aren't very many Luyanda Lewis Nyaos. You can have a look.
I have a Twitter. I don't remember the name of it. I've never sent a tweet. I have an Instagram. If you find it, you can follow me. I don't post anything. I literally got an Instagram so that I could follow my friend's art account and like her art so that it would get boosted. That is, I don't really use social media very often to actually publish anything. So if you really want to talk to me, the Discord is probably the best spot. I respond on there with relative frequency. So yeah, or Patreon. If you can message us on Patreon.
Yep.
There we go. And we'll take as much as that as we can. And again, we'll put it in the show. I point down. I get so used to being able to see people go down to the show notes. I don't know. They might be to the side. They might be above you. But beyond that, we just want to thank all of you so much for coming, spending some time, sharing your ideas with us and sharing it with our listeners.
For sure.
No, thank you so much for having us on. This has been great.
Fun.
I love DM talk about the hells we unleash on our players and how much fun we secretly have. It's very rare as a DM you get to geek out about the stuff you threw at your players, because normally the other DMs are like playing in your games. So it's quite nice to be able to I've got this thing coming up, you know?
Yeah. My players recently started listening to the podcast, and now I'm like,
no.
No.
Talking about you, Alan. Talking about you. He's like, so you talked about this thing about weather. You didn't do weather this game. I'm like, come on, Alan.
Come on.
Don't hold me accountable for things I say. Come on.
Maybe that'll just add to the sense of dread when they're like, oh yeah, you see some spiderwebs in a cave. Now they're going to be like, the Drider's here. There's a Drider in here, run!
You walk into a village and you see zombies in the windows and you see a well in the middle. Oh, Beholder zombie.
Beholder zombie. Okay. Yeah.
But also there's a cabin.
Yeah,
a little old lady inside.
And there's animals. There's animals everywhere. Oh, okay. All right.
Okay. You still got to fight it, so I mean, good luck.
Yeah. For real though, it was super great having you guys on. This was an absolute blast to be able to talk with you all.
No, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us. This has been awesome.
We just want to take a minute to thank Jasper, Unati, and Jeremy for coming on, sharing with us their terrifying mix of monsters, the ideas that are still plaguing my brain to this day and will no doubt haunt players around the world. And if you like that and you want to tell us how you used an Undead Beholder, a Drider, or Hags in your game, you can always email us at dungeonmasterblock@gmail.com. And of course, you can always head over to your podcatcher of choice, leave us a review, and let us know, and we'll read it on air. As always, you can also follow us on Twitter at DMS_block. That's DM's block. And of course, you can like us on Facebook to follow us and see all the things that we're doing. And today's Patreon shout out goes to DM Remember Reach. And they are a silver dragon terrorizing the Patreon skies, the forums, and wherever they so choose. As always, the Dungeon Masters Block is a proud member of the Block Party Podcast Network, where you can check out other shows like We're So Bad at Adventuring, Dungeons and Dragons and Daughters, Detentions and Dragons, and more. And as always, thank you for listening to the Dungeon Master's Block, the place where we come to talk about the Dungeon Master, the most important person in the game, the only person capable of playing God, killing characters, and lowering the egos of all of the people at the table. I'm DM Neal. Good night, good luck, and keep on Dungeon Mastering.
It's not inspiration, it's not wisdom, and it's bad advice.
The next time you introduce a snake or a spider to your game, just go buy one. Just bring it to the table. It'll be fine.
Goodbye.